Hello Kelly. Professor Atuami asked me to help him to prepare a keynote speech for UTM Malaysia.
What do you think will be a good contribution in that speech?
I think it will be very important to talk about cross-border higher education collaborations.
What do you want to explain in this keynote speech?
I want to explain why people and organizations engage in collaborations.
According to your research, what are the reasons that make people and organizations engage in collaborations?
Collaboration can be explained as a result of specific dynamics or as a strategy to maximize the mutual satisfaction of necessities.
Let's start with the dynamics that drive collaboration. Talking of collaboration in these modern times is kind of contradictory.
Why do you think is that?
The advent of global markets and the ever-growing push toward competition seems to detract from the ideas of cooperation and collaboration.
What do you think is generating this push?
This push toward competition stems from the evolutionary premise of survival of the fittest. Natural selection suggests competition, which by its own nature opposes cooperation or collaboration.
Competition opposes cooperation and/or collaboration except when particular dynamics mandate the opposite.
Which kind of dynamics could mandate the opposite? Cooperation implies renouncing to some of the own capacities to compete in favor of another individual or organization.
There are different dynamics that promote collaboration. One is having incomplete puzzles.
What do you mean by incomplete puzzles?
This dynamic suggests that none of the interested parties can achieve their goals solely by themselves. Collaboration implies the mutual need to achieve each one's goals. This need of the other can be absolute, such as in cases where it is completely impossible to achieve the own goals without the other. This need could also be relative when it might be possible to achieve the own goals without the other, but it would require excessive efforts.
Besides of the absolute or relative need of the other, what other dynamics could drive collaboration instead of competition?
Novak described 5 additional dynamics for cooperation as follows: kin selection, direct reciprocity, indirect reciprocity, network reciprocity, and group selection.
What is kin selection?
Kin selection stems from the fact that people are capable of sacrificing themselves in favor of genetic relatives such as children, siblings, and parents.
How kin selection could be extrapolated to organizations?
Kin selection could be extended as affiliation, such as disciplinary affiliation, historic affiliation, or even language affiliation. Affiliations generate mutual interest.
What is the next dynamic? Is it direct reciprocity? What is direct reciprocity?
Direct reciprocity works when repeated encounters are almost certain. In this case, individuals cooperate with the hope of receiving the same cooperation back in future encounters.
What is indirect reciprocity? And what motivates it?
Indirect reciprocity works under the assumption that helping some individuals will create a good reputation that will almost surely be rewarded by others.
But reputation is sometimes difficult to communicate.
When this reputation is difficult to communicate, this approach loses ground.
The next dynamic is network reciprocity. What do you have to say about that?
Network reciprocity recognizes that people and organizations do not just help anyone. If that were the case, then in a competing society egotists will always triumph collaborators.
Then, how people and organizations deal with egotists who only want to receive?
Collaborators gather together and insulate themselves from egotists or opportunists, creating their own networks of reciprocity.
I think we are approaching the last dynamic that you are going to describe. What is this one about?
Finally, group selection stems from the fact that groups of cooperators are generally more successful than groups of egotists.
And what happens with that?
As a result, groups of cooperators have greater chances to grow and later split apart to become new independent groups.
So in a competitive environment there is a lot of room for collaboration.
Certainly it is. A competitive environment also generates important dynamics of cooperation and collaboration.
What do you think is the ultimate goal of interpersonal and interorganizational relationships?
The general goal of interpersonal and interorganizational dynamics is to maximize the mutual satisfaction of necessities.
And how interorganizational relations maximize that goal?
Competition, coordination and collaboration can contribute to the mutual satisfaction of necessities.
What do you mean by all these three terms, competition, coordination and collaboration? I do not see their relation.
All of those are approaches to attend people's needs.
What makes those approaches different?
All of approaches have their own strengths and weaknesses. The decision to adopt one or the other depends on the specific circumstances that maximize the mutual satisfaction of necessities.
How do you see that competition can contribute to the mutual satisfaction of necessities?
The hidden hand of the market seems to unconsciously coordinate people's efforts toward the mutual satisfaction of necessities.
But competition operates in the self-interest, not on the interest for others.
You are partly mistaken. People adjust efforts and means of production according to prices in order to improve their own well-being, and in doing so they unconsciously also contribute to improve the well-being of others.
So the self-interest also maximizes the common interest.
Prices work as a suitable mean to allow the communication and coordination of efforts of buyers and sellers in order to achieve the mutual satisfaction of necessities.
But no one can deny that competition in open markets carries problems such as the exploitation of people in disadvantage. Open unruly competition also leads to excessive duplication of investments as people do not rely too much on each other and they need to secure the provision of critical resources. Open unruly competition also leads to increases on transaction costs that do not increase value.
It is true, competition in many cases needs to be regulated in order to better achieve the mutual satisfaction of necessities as well as to avoid negative consequences.
How could competition be regulated?
Coordination can contribute to the mutual satisfaction of necessities. Common agreed governments can contribute to the mutual satisfaction of necessities by raising resources through taxes and making investments that contribute to the common good.
What do you mean by common good?
Common services and infrastructures on which everyone depends such as streets, aqueducts, justice, police and protection of disadvantaged populations, can be provided through a common agreed government. Governments can even coordinate means of productions in order to better attend people's necessities and promote development.
But governments can also become unnecessarily bureaucratized, reducing efficiency on transactions. People can even lose sight of necessities and the efforts to satisfy them when they have to deal with obtrusive bureaucratic processes. In addition, excessively secure bureaucratic positions can lead to disdain for people's necessities, worsening even more the mutual satisfaction of necessities.
That is also true. Coordination through centralized governments also create another set of problems.
Now please explain me, what do you mean by collaboration?
Competition and coordination are not the only means to satisfy each other's necessities. Collaboration can also contribute to satisfy people's necessities.
But what do you mean by collaboration? And how collaboration emerges?
People and organizations develop their relations by initially engaging in simple transactions that progressively grow over time as mutual reliance, care and trust is developed. Interpersonal and inter-organizational relations grow over time to the point where they become collaborations and partnerships.
But we already know the problems that competitive markets and coordinating governments could create. What is the improvement that inter-organizational collaborations can create?
In this kind of relations, products and services are not only exchanged according to market prices or to mandates from higher authorities or governments. In collaborative relations, products and services are exchanged according to the degree of mutual care and trust derived from mutual interdependencies.
Are you implying that markets and authorities are useless?
No, all the contrary. It means that according to the specific circumstances, general satisfaction can in some cases be better achieved through competition, in some other cases through coordination, and in some specific ones through collaboration.
So, when people should look for collaborations instead of markets or mandates from the government.
Collaboration seems to work better when it is difficult to put prices on the resources being exchanged. For example, knowledge is in many cases difficult to value as it cannot always be translated into products and services. As knowledge is in many cases difficult to translate it into products and services, it is hard to put a price on it. Even more important than prices Knowledge can have harmful and dangerous uses, demanding even more reliance, care and trust on each other in order to be able to exchange such knowledge.
Are you also going to talk about the people who create cross-border collaborations?
Yes, such people are frequently referred as agents. Agents could be faculty as well as executives or staff.
What is what you want to say about agents in collaborations?
Organizations need people who can continually scan the environment in search of innovations, opportunities and threats.
So, the agents that you refer are kind of ambassadors.
Yes, agents are figures like ambassadors. Moreover, agents can also get to know the other cultures' environments in order to evaluate potential exchanges as well as joint efforts.
And what are the goals achieved through this external searching?
These searches have the potential to improve the home organization as well as the organizations abroad by finding both opportunities and threats, get to know opportunities to take advantage of such, and find threats in order to put forward measures to prevent them.